Good Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Browns out on the West Coast, working out at UCLA in Los Angeles, getting ready to face the Rams Sunday at 4 o'clock, SoFi Stadium. Matthew Berry, NBC Sports, talking about the potential of Joe Flacco being the Browns' starting quarterback.
I know this is going to sound insane. I think it's an upgrade.
I agree.
I think it's an upgrade. Do we think Joe Flacco is great? No. Do we think he's elite? No. Not at this stage of his career. We can debate that from earlier in his career. But the fact is that he is at least semi-professional quarterback in terms of being able to go through his progressions, in terms of being able to deliver a ball on time, being able to understand where where wide receivers are going with their routes, and just DTR just isn't there yet in his career. He's a rookie. He was a late round rookie. He was drafted, Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, he was drafted as a developmental project.
Yeah.
Now, he had a really nice preseason, give the kid credit, and he's certainly athletic, but the fact is that as a passer, he's still developing.
He is, and he just needs time. I know he was that 4.5-year starter at UCLA, but it's a lot different in the pack, especially in Chip Kelly's offense. And when you look at him right now, the speed, especially in the AFC North right now, it just looked a little overwhelmed. He can make plays with his legs, but to expect him to get that passing game full throttle was a little bit much.
With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. And Brad, I think there was a lot of merit to what they're saying relative to DTR.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to take him some time. I think he does provide them a ceiling that they're going to, I think it's probably his job when he's healthy. But I am intrigued to see, for the reasons that they're mentioning there in that hit, that I'm intrigued to see Flacco just because of his ability to dissect a defense, read a defense, and get the ball out on time. And do we see him, do they stress defenses more vertically? Do they push the ball down the field more than we've seen? Because let's face it, this offense has kind of had training wheels on for the past few weeks, right? So let's see what happens with the veteran back there. He did spend a year with Gary Kubiak in 2014. It was his best statistical year of his entire career. So he should understand the baseline concepts of the offense from the get-go.
Well, DTR still hasn't cleared the concussion protocol, so Joe Flacco has been getting all of the reps in practice. It's kind of helped speed up his learning process with this Browns offense.
Yeah, I think when you're able to focus on a game plan, you can come pretty far. And obviously getting out and being able to actually run stuff and call stuff, that goes a long way too. So.
Joe, it's looking like there's a decent chance you could start Sunday if DTR is not out of concussion protocol. Your thoughts on, just a couple weeks ago, you're waiting for an opportunity. Now you're going to be potentially starting on Sunday against the Rams.
I think that's it. I mean, just opportunity. I think, I love playing this game, and anytime an opportunity, kind of presents itself, you just got to be patient and, see what's in store for you. And, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking it day by day and just trying to, go about my business and, see where it takes us.
And Brad, I've said this from the moment they talked about it. The offense will likely look a lot more like it looked with Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, than it looks with, because there are limitations. Joe Flacco's mobility is a limitation that has to be a concern with the tackles that you have, and even the line has not been as good as most people thought it would be.
No, yeah, he's very statuesque, right? He's not very mobile. He's 38 years old now, so you're gonna have to protect him, right? They're gonna have to help probably Jerron Christian, who had kind of his first really rough week last week at left tackle. So yeah, I mean, he needs to be protected. The one thing that he will do though is he'll get it out quick, right? And I think that's the difference, is that he makes up for without mobility. He's not going to, scramble for a bunch of yards or anything, but I think he can avoid the sack or pressure by getting the ball out, quickly. And I think he'll be able to identify, what's in front of him, dissect it, and get the ball to the playmakers faster, which is kind of where this is really intriguing, right? Like, does the offense look better with Joe Flacco? And if it does, what then? I still think they want to go back to DTR, and it probably makes the most sense. But if he goes out and plays really well, and I think there's a non-zero chance that he does go out and this offense does look better, then you do have a question on your hands.
Yeah, and you know what? We call those good problems when you've got a guy that plays really well at quarterback. All right, Amari Cooper and Joe Flacco talked about wide receiver, new quarterback, communication, and Amari Cooper also talked about what he's seen from Joe Flacco.
He looks good. He throws a very pretty ball. I don't know if it's intentional or what, but when he drops back and he lets it go, the whole motion is like poetry in motion. It looks good.
We talked about about how communication is really important. So as you guys are acclimated with Joe, how has that communication been going this week?
Yeah, communication is very important. Just to be on the same page. Actually, we was talking today about 2 routes actually. He just reiterated that it's just important for us to be on the same page on those routes. So I mean, it's always important. He asked me how I was looking to run a certain route versus a certain look. So now that we're on the same page, we can move on to the next, the next form of communication.
We have a couple days to get, on the same page, and not everything's going to be perfect. And you got to save guys' legs. So guys aren't going to be getting a ton of reps. So a lot of it, I would say early on, is going to be feel, and then you take that feel, and I've had a bunch of reps with a handful of guys out here, and you start to see how they're going to run routes, and then you communicate with them, or hey, if you get press here, how can I expect you to do it? And it might not be exactly how it happens in the game, but at least you have a little base of what to expect. That's why coming out here and practicing is so important.
And Brad, the more I hear Joe Flacco talk, there isn't anything that's going to surprise him that happens Sunday. Now, he might not be able to have the right answers, and it might not work the way you want it, but it's not going to be because somebody fools him.
Yeah, he's seen it all, right? I mean, this guy has seen it all. He's seen every defense. He's seen every disguise. So you expect him to be able to identify that stuff. That will help him with the protections just in himself. You know what I mean? Adjusting at the line of scrimmage, and it's good. Amari Cooper is a quarterback's best friend, right? His ability to create separation and his understanding, as we've heard, past stories about him going to Deshaun and his other 2 quarterbacks this year, and communicating about what he sees out there and stuff like that. So I would expect Flacco to probably target him a good amount on Sunday if he is getting open. So and this Rams team's secondary is not terrific, right? This is one of the areas you can exploit them.
All right, so we've all heard, Joe Flacco started, last year for the Jets, didn't go necessarily well, but take a look at these numbers in the games that he started in, and it kind of explains a little bit. The Jets were asking him to throw the ball a whole lot. Week 1, 59 attempts. Week 2 against the Browns, 44 attempts. Week 3 against the Bengals, 52 attempts. That I don't see a scenario where he is dropping back that many, unless the game gets away from the Browns in a hurry. You're not having a 38-year-old guy with limited mobility drop back 59 times. That's just not a good idea. That's bad coaching.
It is. Ideally, you would like to see that number maybe around 25, right? Under 30, I would think, would be the ideal number. That says that the game script is where you want it to be, and there's a good mix of run and pass. But those are gaudy attempt numbers, right? And not in a good way. So that is misuse of a guy, obviously. And the Browns hopefully don't. I mean, they got to 44 attempts with DTR 2 weeks ago or whatever. So let's stay away from the 40 numbers and keep him in a reasonable range there. I think he'll be efficient, and I would be surprised if we see a number over maybe 35 max. Otherwise, I think, like you said, you're probably not doing it right.
All right, so this is also kind of interesting. Kevin Stefanski led Browns teams, falling behind in the first quarter on the road 18 times in 30 road games over the last 3+ seasons, 60% clip. They've been tied 6 times, and they've had the lead just 6 times. Now, Stefanski is 12-18 on the road in his career. 5 of those wins coming in 2020. Since then, 7-15. And again, you know, the winning on the road is not easy in the NFL. So let's start there. Starting poorly and winning on the road doesn't happen hardly at all.
No, it doesn't. They've been very fortunate this year. They have, you know, just this year alone, take the Steelers game out of the equation, they've given up 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of every road game. 3 of those, Dave, they were down 14-0, and they won 2 of those 4 games, right? So that is extremely fortunate. They were able to rally and come back in those games. Now, the defense has always adjusted well, right? But you can't give up 2 drives or 2 touchdown drives and then adjust anymore, right? Like that's just not sustainable for success for them to be able to have to come back constantly, right? They aren't equipped to do that. They're equipped to be in a game script where it's neutral or they're ahead, right? And they're running the ball, playing time of possession. So kudos to them for getting 2 wins out of those 14-0 holes they put themselves in 4 times this year, right? Or 3 times this year. But either way, that has to stop. You know, Schwartz addressed earlier in the year in one of the press conferences, you know, when the Browns gave up the end of game drive to the Niners, and I think it was the Seahawks in a couple weeks in a row back then. And he was like, yeah, we're going to fix this. We're going to do something different. He was very pointed and addressed it directly. He's got to understand that this can't continue, and you would think he would, you know, address it and approach it differently. They're obviously struggling with the scripted part of the other team's offense, right? Those plays seem to be being very effective against the Browns.
Brad Ward and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
An Ohio lottery machine. The holiday scratch-offs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Non-winning tickets have a second chance.
Is that Miriam Bright? The first ever $30 holiday game! Hello? You can get them now? I'm gonna go ask if I can play.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, my name is Roger. I'm a first-time caller, 50-plus year fan. These people that want to fire Kevin Stefanski either have never played sports or have never coached sports. When you use your best players and you still have a winning record, you're pretty darn good. That's all I got to say about that. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Brad, yeah, I mean, you could go down the list. If you take quarterback and top weapon away from any of the offenses, being 7-4 is pretty good. And I'm saying you lost Deshaun Watson, you lost Nick Chubb. That offense was built around him. Somehow, you found a way to be 7-4, and you haven't had them very much.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's managed this really well, right? You have to give him credit there. He's managed it, and he's done it in a way, David, he always talks about the week-to-week, right? 1 week at a time, but especially this year where you've had the different quarterbacks every week and not knowing who's going to start, which just compounds, you know, the issues to get ready and prepare for a week. But, you know, by taking that approach of, you know, each week is its own entity, let's start here. We're going to work through it. We'll get this solution. We'll come up with a game plan. And he's really kind of just done that. And you hear the players, you know, echoing those sentiments in their press, you know, availabilities, you know, 1 week at a time. We just want to go 1-0 this week. So they're buying in and they understand. And that kind of mantra has gotten them through this, you know, storm of different, for now, what looks like it's going to be 4 different starting quarterbacks and a lot of other injuries as well.
All right, I know you wrote an article, and we've already talked about a couple of these. Things I think I know about the Browns has to be next man up as the injuries pile up. Schwartz has to stop first quarter struggles on defense. We've talked about that. Cedric Tillman flashes in the loss to Denver, and gotta like what you see from Cedric. Cedric Tillman has shown up. If you pay attention, he is a very willing run blocker. He showed up in the passing game in a pretty big way. And you know, with a guy like Flacco, that big target downfield is going to be awfully tempting for him.
Yeah, you hope so, right? Like that momentum that he got in the first half in Denver carries over to Flacco, get him some targets, maybe down the field a little bit more. Boy, he looked really good, Dave. When he looks bigger even than like he's listed when he's out on the field. Maybe that's because the Browns have some smaller receivers, but either way, he looks big. He looks athletic. He looks the part, right? Like he passes the eye test immediately. He moves really well through traffic. He created some separation. About the one catch where he just kept his arms extended from his body and just held it out away from the defender like he was blocking him out in basketball. Just some kind of impressive physical stuff from a rookie. So, yeah, I want to see more targets go his way, right? You know, enough cardio. He's done a nice job, like you said, in the run game. He's been physical, like DPJ was, all these initials. Donovan Peoples-Jones was in the run game. He's filled that role nicely. He's been physical, big, and he's, done his job there. But let's get some more targets his way because he looked really good last week when he got the ball.
All right, so Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp banged up all year, hadn't been himself. He talked about what he has seen from this Browns defense.
Coach Schwartz has done a great job in this league for a long time defensively. I think those guys, the identity of what they play with has been pretty consistent under his leadership. And I think this Browns team plays with that same energy, the same physicality. There's obviously the mixes of, the pressures that you're going to see. The guys are going to come up and challenge you. And, they play hard, man. They play hard, and, that Schwartz loves to, he's brought a lot of different pressures and things like that throughout his time in the NFL. So I'm sure he's going to have something fun for us to look at. A lot of respect for him and this defense. They're doing some good stuff.
And when you hear opponents talk about the defense, mixing coverages, different looks, physical, those are pretty much universal.
Yeah, that's the identity, right? We're going to out-physical you. They're going to create pressure. They're going to each week have a different plan to disrupt what you want to do. And that's how they found a lot of success. And they are banged up. They do need the guys to step up, probably better than last week, right? We need Greg Newsome to play a little bit better out on the boundary. Mike Ford, if he's forced to, I don't think they're going to get Denzel back, but if they don't, you need these guys to play better than they did last week. And you probably need to, like the thing with Stafford and these guys is Stafford, their offensive line is not great. It's like the 23rd offensive line at PFF. But they're like 6th in sacks, Dave, because he gets the ball out so fast. So sacks aren't the number this week, right, on defense. It's like pressures and QB hits. You just need to get him off his spot, disrupt him, make him uncomfortable more than really sack him. I think that should be their focus this week because I don't think you're going to run up a bunch of sacks against Stafford. He's just too heady.
Yeah, and along those lines, so Grant Delpit talking about what he has seen from this Rams offense.
Shoot, it starts with the gunslinger. They got a quarterback, man. Stafford, he's been around the league forever. I think it's I don't know what year, 14, 13, it's one of them. So he does a good job of spreading the ball around. They got a nice rookie receiver that's come about in Puka. Cooper Kupp's getting back healthy. They spread the ball around, man, and they do a great job of getting guys open. So that's something that we got to control. But we love passing games as DBs, so it's an opportunity.
You mentioned all the Rams, Stafford and those receivers. What about that running back, Kyron Williams? He had a big game last week. What do you see on him?
He run the ball hard, man. He run the ball he's a downhill runner, and he's looking for contact. So he's a Notre Dame guy. I think Jock familiar with him. So, we watched the tape, man, and we feel there's a lot of good running backs this year. So I think that's going to prepare us. And they ran the ball too much last game. So we got a big emphasis on that. Even though this team isn't the biggest running game team, we got to play that to our advantage.
And Brad, that is without question a guy that concerns the bigger backs. Kenneth Walker, the Seahawks, Pirine even with Denver, and now Kyron Williams. That I'm with you, Grant Delpit. Got to limit that.
Yeah, listen, they Browns are kind of, I don't want to say they're catching them at the wrong time, but they're catching them at this team as they're getting healthy, right, a little bit. And McVay has really wanted, this week in talking to some people, that cover the Rams, McVay has wanted Kyron Williams to be the guy, like their bell cow for some time, right? But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy for long spurts. So last week, him coming off the IR, finally healthy, they really featured him. He had 200 yards from scrimmage. So he's a handful. Like, he really is a handful. So, and a very talented back. So they will, they're very multiple in their run game. They got hit a long shot last week to Atwell, another wide receiver they have that can kind of stretch your defense vertically early. And it kind of, freed things up for them. And they really, had a lot of success on the offensive game. Interesting stuff, though, about their pass game last week, real quick, Dave, with Stafford. 129 on 229 yards last week were yards after catch. And 25 of his 33 passing attempts, or 25 completions of his 33 completions, were at 10 yards or less. 9 of them at the line of scrimmage or behind. So a lot of this stuff is very short pass game stuff, and they're looking to get their athletes the ball in space and let them create yards after catch. So Brown's speed, defensive speed, should be able to negate some of that, I hope.
Yep, got a tackle in the open field. The man coverage also should work against that, if you will. The quick passes usually against a zone. All right, before I let you go, what's it look like? What's the formula for the Browns to come away with a win? 8-4, much more appealing than 7-5 relative to the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a huge game, really. Like, I don't think people have taken in how influential it is for both teams. Like, they need this. They will be playing with desperation. The Browns should be playing with desperation. Now, they've been out in L.A. all week. I'm glad, right? It snowed here. It's been awful. At least they've been out in the warm sunshine, away from all that, right? Hopefully getting healthy, as this team needs that so badly. But as far as the game plan goes, I would say, don't let them start fast, right? Like, that's the main thing, control the scripted portion of what they're going to throw at you. Then make your adjustments, and this defense should settle in nicely. I think offensively, the Browns should be able to find some success running the ball, and that should open up some stuff down the field for Flacco in the short, intermediate, and hopefully he stretches the defense vertically more than we've seen with other guys. Because of experience, I think those shots are there, those answers are there if you get that far in the playbook, if that makes sense. Like, if you can get some success in the run game and the screen game and then expand on that, I think that's potentially available. This isn't a terrific defense. You've got John Johnson back there and a couple other guys that have struggled at times this year on their back end. So the pass game is a place to take advantage, but I really want to see a balanced attack. Keep them honest. Don't put Flacco in a situation, like we said earlier, where he has to drop back 40 times. That's just not going to be a recipe for success. And I expect this defense to play well. Like, they have to live up to their billing against this offense, because if you don't, this offense is, with Stafford and their weapons, they will make you pay. They are good. They have a good play caller. They will identify where your shortcomings are and exploit them. Browns' #1 defense got to play like it this week.
I'm with you. Brad Ward, Orange and Brown Report, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
You're the best, Dave. Have a wonderful day.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out. Hosts the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. You can also check him out the Orange and Brown Report. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. A video scouting report, Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, showing us what to be concerned about with the Rams and where the Browns have some advantages. Sports for CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports 4 CLE. Browns out in Los Angeles at UCLA, getting ready to face the Rams in LA on Sunday, 4 o'clock local time. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland, some video analysis, film breakdown of what the Browns need to do to beat the Rams. And Lance, this is one they really have to have. The difference between being 8-4, 7-5, huge, particularly when you're thinking playoffs.
Well, yeah, and when you start with the breakdown, it's always going to start with the best players. And right now, the best players, obviously, for the Rams are on defense are Aaron Donald. He's not having a great year. He does have 12 tackles for a loss. I actually think he's more dominant in the run game than he is even as a pass rusher. And then Puka Nacua is having a great year. Tons of receptions. He's really been good. Obviously, Cooper Kupp has been banged up. Tutu Atwell. Again, this is the game the Browns got to have. I don't think Flacco will hurt them as much as people think. The last two stops he's been at with the Jets and Denver, he had to carry those teams. He doesn't have to do that with the Browns. He's got to be solid, and I think that's what he could be for the Browns. But first and foremost, before you get your scouting report going, you got to stop the best players, and that's Aaron Donald, Puka Nacua.
Well, and so the other thing that they've got Kyren Williams back, and really the running back getting a chance to play, and he's playing well. So take us through this first clip, what you see with Williams here.
Well, first thing they do is that the Rams are masters of motion. So they do a ton with motion. They do a ton. They're not a gap team. They're a zone team. Obviously, Kyren Williams is very good. Stafford's playing at a very high level. Those are things you know. Kyren Williams is a little bit better than I thought. He's a little bit heavier than I thought. So this is a split zone. I think the Browns got to stop this. They got to stop the movement inside. One of the ways they're going to do it is by covering both the guards in the center and the tight front, which I think they'll do. But this is what he does very well. He runs this zone very well. He can bounce it. He can cut it back. He gets upfield very well. Like I said, he's a violent runner. And this is just a split zone. And what's neat about this is that the Rams do something different here. If you watch the guy coming back for the tight end, he'll actually lead up through the hole. And usually you're reading the backside defensive end. They're going to block the backside defensive end, and they're going to lead the tight end up in the middle. So not only do they run the basic split zone and zone concepts, but they do some things with it. McVay's very creative on offense, and they find different ways. But basically, they're blocking zone. This is the run they run. They don't do much else, and he's been very good at this. Again, he had 204 yards, both receiving and rushing, so this is the guy the Browns got to stop.
Well, and second kind of week in a row where you're dealing with a bigger back. The last week it was Javonte Williams. This week, Kyren Williams. Take us through this next clip. Again, he's a guy that want to get the ball in his hands.
Well, this is really good. Stafford's really good at this. So a couple things here. First of all, this is just a check down from Stafford. What Stafford does very well is he puts it in these guys' hands, receivers, running backs, and you're going to see him catch the ball and be able to run with it. So many times you'll see with inexperienced quarterbacks or non-elite quarterbacks, they put the ball where it's tough to catch. And if you put it where it's tough to catch, it's tough to run with it after catch. So he does a really nice job of putting in. This is Williams. Williams is really good out of the backfield. He's good in pass protection. He's good at running the football, and he's really good at catching the football. So Browns have to stop this. He runs these check down out routes all the time, off play action on first, second, third down. He's very good in the screen game. He had a long touchdown pass on a screen last week as well. So again, a guy the Browns got to watch the run game and the pass game. Here he is just coming out of the backfield on check down with 10 yards and first down, and you're moving on just by a simple check down, easy throw for Stafford.
Well, and without question, you mentioned Stafford, getting the ball to him where he can run. Stafford also has elite arm strength, and those are things that you know you're going to get. Take us through this next clip and what we see here.
So here's a, as the play plays a couple times here, you're going to see the Cardinals, who are not very good on defense, but they are pretty well coached. And what they're going to do here is they're going to cover both the center and the guards. And what this does against a zone team, when you play this tight front or 5 linemen down, takes away the double teams. And the Rams, like a lot of zone teams, they want to double team. And that's why you see the Browns and the elite run teams, they run gap schemes as well, because if you go to this odd front, it takes away all your double teams. And sometimes zone isn't as good when you can't double team. So you're going to see a bunch of single blocks here, and then you got to win some of these. And I think the Browns' defensive line is much better than the Cardinals. So, when if the Browns are struggling, I see them doing 2 things. First, going to this odd front. Secondly, playing the secondary off a little bit. Still being in man coverage, but having their eyes in the backfield. Browns got to stop the run. They've been gashed a little bit in the run. I think they're going to get the secondary involved and change the fronts up a little bit.
So the other thing that we know with the Rams, big target at tight end who had a nice game as well against Cardinals, Tyler Higbee. Take us through this clip, what you see here, and the importance of this.
Well, here's the thing. So in the red zone, he's a monster. He's 6'6", and what he does is that, again, the McVay is a master of motion. So you're going to see Nakua come in motion. He's actually going to release inside of Higbee, which is going to force his corner to back up with him just enough. And it's a zone where the guy who's almost making the tackle on Higbee should be in the zone, but Nakua pushes him off because they're so good with motion. And then it's just an easy target. So they're going to run a zone fake here, fake the zone to the right. It's just an easy boot pass with 3 levels. The Browns run this play. Everybody runs this play. But in the red zone, this is much easier when you have a target who's 6'6". And you're going to see they use them in a couple different ways, and this is one of them on these naked boots that they like to run in the red zone. Big target. They use motion like they do in the run and pass game to open things up. Very creative, and McVay is very good at this.
The one thing that comes to mind with that is the Browns are more equipped if they decide to go man. You've got Emerson who could match up with him. I know 6'6", but Emerson's big enough. JOK is athletic enough. Your safeties. The Browns are a little bit more equipped than most to deal with a big tight end.
Well, yeah, and in the pass game, the Browns are really good with like everything they see. So they can, once again, it goes back to I think they're equipped to stop the Bengals, and the Bengals with their big tight ends and T. Higgins and Boyd and Chase. So they have the guys that can match up. And I think in the red zone, just because of his size, I can see Emerson getting on him, especially if he's in the slot, which they like to run him in the slot, especially in their empty sets with Stafford. So I see Emerson matching up. But you're right, man coverage gives you a little bit of advantage on the goal line. Again, with McVay, though, you have to be careful with motion because he can mix things up and run some crossing routes. So I see the Browns mixing it up in there, but I think the Browns athletically match up very well against the Rams, which should give them some problems, especially in the run game.
This last clip, again, another one of Higbee, and it kind of gets at what you were thinking, a physical guy that the Browns do have the ability to match up and defend in that short space.
So, what you get here by the Cardinals, this is an umbrella kind of coverage. So we all run different coverages down here. Sometimes you're in tight man. Sometimes you're in off man. You kind of run an umbrella with your linebackers in zone looking for crossing routes. So you're going to see some guys in man. You're going to see some guys in zone, the backers in zone. And Higbee just he has a little bit, he's up on top there. He has a little bit of an outside release, and he just creates a really good angle on that safety trying to cover him. And that safety is taking away the outside because he knows he has help inside with the linebacker. Unfortunately for the linebacker, he's too short. So they force him inside. They actually have a double team here on Higbee, but he's too tall. And this is simply just using your height and your advantage. This is what people say, why big receivers work in the red zone. This, even more than the first pass, this is what makes Higbee tough. They have the right coverage here. He's just too tall.
All right, so we've looked at some of the things that the Rams present for the Browns offensively. Let's flip it. So what can the Browns do to exploit some of the things that the Rams do defensively?
The Browns the thing is with the Browns, they have to stay committed to the run game. Last week, if you look at first 15 plays, 5 were run and 10 were passed. I think the Browns, it would really benefit them if they run the ball and stay committed to the run. And what I mean by that is that, it's okay to run the ball and punt the ball. They can't have turnovers, and they always have to protect that defense. That defense will win them games. They've shown they can do that. And if you look at the elite defenses over the last 20 years, they can win championships for you. And I still think the Browns are in good shape. They're not a panic situation. They just have to play really smart on offense. And I think it really comes down to running the ball, attacking the middle of the field. Attacking in the middle of the field makes it easier for whoever's at quarterback throwing the ball. And it also makes it easier running the ball because you're running right behind Posick, Teller, and Batono. You're all pros. So I think the Browns got to attack both in the middle run game and they got to attack the middle in the pass game because it makes it really easy for a quarterback to work those tight ends, to work those crossing routes, to work those RPOs, to work those, those option routes. Make the throws easy, make the runs easy, use your best people. It's always players over plays. And right now, the Browns' best players are inside with those guards in the center.
All right, so let's take a look at this first clip, and it kind of illustrates what you're talking about.
So going back, trying to figure out, went through a bunch of games and kind of what the Eagles do. So the Eagles, this is just a split zone, double team here inside. And the Rams are a really good pass rush team. They don't like to get knocked off the ball. And if you see that guy right on the hash mark, that defensive tackle, that nose guard, he's going to get blown off the ball by Kelsey in the right guard. And what you got to understand here is this is not a great run. It's 4 yards. This is what the Browns need to be. They need to be 4 and 5 and 6 yards, stay ahead of the sticks, get it second to 6 and under, and then you can throw and run some play action, and do some different things. They can't be behind the sticks. And if they do get behind the sticks, they have to run the ball twice and punt it. And that will prevent turnovers. They have no chance if they turn the ball over, but if they can end every drive with a kick, they got a real chance. And this is what a lot of the Browns' runs should look like. 4 and 5 yards, don't have to be home runs. This is what the Eagles do to you until they break a big one. They 4 and 5 you to death, and then they break a big one. This is similar to what the Browns got to do.
So, and then let's take a look at this final clip. Take us through what you see here, what's important.
Well, again, the middle of the field. So you're going to see they often show these linebackers up, and if you look at the middle of the field right behind the linebackers, they leave a lot of open space, both in first, second, third down, both in man and in zone. They like to crowd the line of scrimmage, mug those linebackers up in the A and B gaps, but they leave a lot of holes behind. So this is a crossing route from the Cardinals. But if you think about the Browns, they would run their crossing route with the Njoku, Moore, option routes, slant routes with their big receivers, Tillman and Cooper, things like that. So attacking the middle of the field, both with run and pass. And this is just a simple crossing route on third down. And you can see how open the middle of the field is. It's just it's a big pressure. However, you get rid of the ball quickly. Browns need to protect Flacco if he's the starter. They got to protect him and get it out of his hands quickly. And he can make these are easy throws for NFL quarterbacks.
All right, Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis. Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, this is Bob from Chillicothe. Hey, I know Stefanski's back on the hot seat after last week's game, but we can't keep firing coaches. We got to have stability. But on that note, he does have to learn to just run the ball. I know we lost Chubb, but we've got a good line and a good running core. Outside of Cooper, our receiving core has been questionable. Just keep on going with that on the running game, and we'll get where we need to go. And with Miles, I hope they play him on the right side more to keep those guys off his left shoulder. It really looked like those linemen were really working on that left shoulder in the Broncos game. Thanks again. Go Browns. Woof, woof.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily. And Randy, there are metrics that show you when the Browns run the ball, they're not running it effectively into stacked boxes without Nick Chubb. So they're trying to avoid getting in 3rd and long with DTR where you know he's got to throw a pass. It's all interrelated. Having said that, yeah, I'd like to see him run the ball a little more, but teams are saying beat us. Rookie quarterback beat us. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, there's a couple things in the voicemail. The first thing that I really like is that he said, we can't keep firing our coach. That's something I keep, preaching. We for 24, 25 years, whatever it's been, they've been firing the coach, and it doesn't work. You don't just automatically get a new coach in there and win a Super Bowl. That's not how it works. You have to have some consistency, and this is the first winning coach that they've had in a long time, and he's done it with some backup quarterbacks. So the idea that he's on the hot seat, I think that's just some fans that feel like he's on the hot seat. I don't think that Kevin Stefanski really is. But you're right as well that the defense has a say in this as well. You don't want to run the ball just for the sake of running the ball, and I understand it was working against Denver for the most part, but near the end of the game, you had 8-9 guys in the box. They're basically daring you to throw the ball. And then, after the mistake where they had the fumble, you're down 2 scores at that point in the fourth quarter. You're not throwing the ball, or you're not running the ball anymore at that point. So I understand the frustration. I do get why, you feel like the calls are wrong, but at the same time, you have to make teams respect DTR before you're ever going to start to find ways to win consistently, especially once you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, and the other thing is the stack boxes, and people are like, well, we've got a good offensive line. Nick Chubb, you would see them run into stacked boxes with, because he can find a way to make 2 yards into 4 yards. Jerome Ford has not shown that ability to get, the four yards when it looks like you're getting 2 just yet.
Yeah, he hasn't, and again, you say he did well last week against Denver, and a lot of that was on like the first down, the second down. But when they were getting into the 3rd down situation, the 3rd and shorts, it wasn't working. And that's because the defenses knew the run was coming. So when they know the run's coming, they're going to shut it down. Then you also have Kareem Hunt, but he's pretty much going to get you about 3 yards right now. He's not getting a whole lot more than that. He's really good in that short yardage situation, but defenses aren't going to start backing off and giving you that room for them to make more yardage until you prove you can beat them.
All right, so this is from ESPN.com. Best veteran contract value deals for all 32 teams. For the Browns, they go Anthony Walker, $1.2 million, 0.5% of the cap. Walker generally plays about 75% of the run snaps, very strong against the run. Average depth of tackle is 3 yards on a run. That ranks 11th this season in off-ball linebackers with at least 20 tackles. Obviously, the question on him was health coming back. When he's gone out because he's been banged up, the defense has missed him, especially the run defense.
Yeah, Anthony Walker, when they signed him a couple years ago, I felt like that was a really good but also really underrated signing. He's very, very effective. He's great against the run. And another thing that, Sione Takitaki can come in and kind of play. He can play very well also. He can get the job done as the Mike linebacker, but then you kind of miss him out on the outside. But in addition to that, he's a great leader. Last year, he showed that a lot when there was a lot of finger pointing and everything going on. People were griping and complaining. He was the one person that was out there saying, hey, I'm supposed to be leader of this defense. Put this on me. I'm going to do better. And I think that helps a lot, too, having that guy out there who's accountable in addition to being very effective.
All right, so NBC Sports Crew talking about DTR's performance in Denver. Matthew Berry on this staff that we're hearing from as well.
I thought he actually looked good against Denver, and I thought that was a real improvement. He was positive EPA per play. He was solid in that game, and then he obviously gets knocked out of it. But Flacco, to me, last year, he had some moments early on. I think the Cleveland game in particular helped put up. Well, that's the thing. I remember the Buffalo game he came into late in the season. Like, he's just so statuesque.
Yeah, he can't move, but he could throw on time and with anticipation, and the arm strength is great. It's just a matter. The Browns typically, and I know they've had a lot of injuries this year, typically have a decent offensive line that you hope it would look a little better, but he's not a guy that can escape or
no, but you know what? But you know what he can do? He can be a game manager.
Yes.
Which honestly, given how good that defense is, they're still. What I think the Browns are 7-4,
Yep.
right? I mean, the Browns are still very much alive in the playoff mix, and like if you can just literally be a game manager with that defense, hand the ball off, convert some third downs, which Flacco I think is certainly capable of.
Randy, I don't know about you. I think if it is in fact Joe Flacco, which as we get further and further into the weekend, it's looking more and more like it will be. Kevin Stefanski's offense is built for a guy like him. Play action, you go two tight. It's going to look a lot more like the Baker Mayfield version of the offense than it looked like the version of the offense that they had here.
Yeah, and I actually kind of excited to see what he can do in this. I really do like DTR. I think that he's got a good ceiling, but this isn't a team that's built for developing a young quarterback right now. They have a very, very good defense. They can make a run. They can make some noise in the playoffs. And, Matthew Berry said it right there. They can do it with a game manager, and I think Flacco can do that. More importantly, DTR, PJ Walker, they're not pushing the ball more than 10, 15 yards at most downfield. Flacco kind of gives you that risk that he can launch it. We saw that last year. I don't want to have to relive what happened in week 2 last year, but we saw him launching the ball, getting Corey Davis deep for that 60. I think it was a 66-yard touchdown. So defenses are going to have to respect that, and it goes back to what we were just talking about. You have Flacco out there, and the defense knows, hey, if our safeties come up too high, he can beat us over the top. I think it's going to be good for guys like Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper to know that they can actually run deeper routes.
Yeah, and the other thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find a way to give some help protecting. So you probably have 2 tight ends, and you probably also have Nick Harris in there as a fullback, who's another offensive lineman picking up, guys coming in. So the thing that's been concerning the last couple of weeks with DTR is receivers are dropping the ball. The tight end, David Njoku, hasn't played well. There were a number of drops, and Joe Flacco, who's been taking the number 1 reps, was asked about the drops yesterday.
I don't know if we've had any drops. I missed a few guys missed a couple guys. I think I missed Elijah on a double move yesterday and missed him on a double move today. But besides that, I don't know. Sometimes drops, listen, you want to play well as an offense and you want to go out there and put points on the board. And, you start to press a little bit. You fight a little bit too hard, and then your body's like a little bit off. You're not just running smooth and all those things. There's a lot of things that go into that. So I think the more that we can kind of get into the groove and guys can feel confident about everything, then those things will stop. I think it's usually more, a little bit more mental and just kind of fighting too hard, pressing a little bit where those mistakes happen.
Randy, it makes sense because, as I've said, the receivers are trying to help the rookie quarterback out. So they are trying to do a little bit extra, and it's like, just catch the ball.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think happened with David Njoku. I think it might have been his final drop of the game last week, and he had plenty of room to run. He had both hands on the ball. He turned his head to run, and he just dropped it. But I think he was trying to make a lot out of it. Trying to get more of those angry runs. But I think Flacco's right. I love having that veteran leadership in there that kind of knows it's hey, this isn't that the guys are bad or necessarily even that the guys are struggling. Maybe they're just trying to do too much. Maybe they're putting too much on them. But I also just wanted to say it still just looks weird to see the guy that torched the Browns for so many years sitting there wearing the uniform. But it's hopefully he can go and get a couple wins for us at least.
And you know what? Again, who knows what is going to happen? He gives the downfield threat, which should help you run the football. And if he takes care of the ball, hits a couple of big plays, this team with this defense can beat anybody. There's not if you're getting a couple of explosive plays, 1 or 2 a game, and it's going to open up the run game, this team with this defense can beat anybody.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have to complete a high percentage of the deep shots because, like you said, only 1 or 2 of them is going to be enough to really turn a game. And just knowing that the threat's there, as long as they can hit one here and there, the defense has to respect that. And I think that just opens up so much. And as good as DTR was playing, that's still just the one area where he has not kind of figured it out yet in the NFL. So I think that part could be good.
All right, your own article, 3 biggest changes the Browns must make in Week 13. Number 3, stop trying the reverse. Number 2, stick what's working with what's working, ditch what isn't. And number 1, turn to Joe Flacco already. I think they're trying the reverse. They're trying to manufacture a chunk play, and with DTR. He hasn't evolved in the passing game to where he's getting far enough in his progressions to really threaten a defense.
Yeah, and I get what they're trying to do, and it's going back to even the 2 years when Anthony Schwartz was there. They kept trying to get that reverse going. And I know he had a big touchdown against Tampa. I believe that was last year. But outside of that, it was just a lot of whiffs, a lot of, at most you're getting 2 to 3 yards. You had Marquise Goodwin doing it. He had maybe 1 or 2 good runs, but then he was getting a lot of, get stuff to the line of scrimmage. It's one of those things that at this point, it's not working. And it's putting the offense behind the chains. You already have a quarterback, or you did with DTR anyway, that you didn't want to get him behind the chains. So trying that was just, they've been kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And that kind of goes along the same lines with the second one I was talking about. Stick with what's working. Don't get away from what's not. DTR, when he was throwing, getting the short screen passes like they did against Pittsburgh, it was working fantastic. And you didn't see near as much of that against Denver. So sometimes I think they want to try to get other things going, and that you want that, but you have to let it happen naturally. Go with what's working. Don't try to force things. And then the last one is really kind of what we've already been talking about with putting Joe Flacco out there. This is not a team that needs to be developing a young quarterback right now. This is a team that needs to think, how are we going to be able to win in the playoffs? And as you said, this defense can beat anybody. So I would trust a veteran quarterback at this point.
Randy Gurzi and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. I ain't been calling in much. I've been sitting back watching the show, though, and listening to all these different opinions from these idiots. They want to chase Haslam out of town, fire Stefanski. Come on, man. The guy spends a lot of money trying to bring a championship to town. Stefanski's working again with a patchwork roster. These guys don't know football. But I love you, brother. Be safe, be good, and I'll be in touch. I'd just like to listen to these opinions. Be safe, brother.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. And Randy, again, we welcome all of the various opinions. I don't agree with the fire Stefanski or the Jimmy Haslam. Anytime I hear, and I realize Jimmy Haslam was impatient, fired GMs, fired coaches. The guy's spending more money than anybody in the NFL, and he is letting Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski build the franchise the way they see fit. And they're on to something. Let's see if they can push it across the goal line, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know that people in Cleveland, we're desperate to see a winner. I get that. I understand it. I understand the frustration, but you have to take a step back and look at where we're at. I already mentioned it earlier. Kevin Stefanski, other than Greg Williams' 8-game stint as a interim manager, Kevin Stefanski is the first winning head coach that they've had. Andrew Berry and him have worked together well enough that even though they're potentially starting a 4th quarterback on the season, they're still 7-4 in 6th place in the AFC North. And until last week, they're still right in the middle of the AFC North race, which is the toughest division in football right now. So I don't understand. I understand the frustration over a loss, but I don't understand this idea that it's a complete disaster and we need to move on from everybody. I tweeted something earlier about there really is actual excitement about Joe Flacco at 38 years old starting at quarterback and seeing, hey, maybe this is something that can help us lead us to some wins. And that's a testament to the roster that they've built, because who else is going to lose an all-pro right tackle, franchise running back, a franchise quarterback, and still be able to go out there and have the success that Kevin Stefanski has had.
Yeah, and you also lost your starting left tackle, and for a good portion of a couple of games, your third tackle in Dwan Jones. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Yep.
All right, ESPN Week 13 preview, and they go by each game. So the storyline to watch for the Browns and Rams game, Matthew Stafford coming off a game where he threw season-high 4 touchdown passes, as many as he had in his previous 4 games combined. Browns have allowed just 10 passing touchdowns this season, tied with the Ravens for the fewest in the NFL. The other thing I would say about that, Randy, is this is the style of quarterback that Jim Schwartz's defense with the Browns this year has given a lot of trouble to. The guys that can get out of the pocket and move with their legs have given the Browns trouble. Guys that are that pocket doesn't seem to hold up very long.
No, that defensive line is so good at getting in there and just wreaking havoc. And in addition to that, Jim Schwartz was Matthew Stafford's head coach for 5 years in Detroit, so he knows his tendencies, he knows what he can do. And so now he even knows he's even more limited than he was during the earlier part of his career when the two of them were together. So he knows what he needs to take away. He knows what Stafford's capable of, so he's not going to be surprised by anything. But I think what you're talking about is perfect. You've got Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Ogbo Okoronkwo, all are getting in there, getting after the quarterback. And like you said, when they're statue quarterbacks, or the mobile, stand in the pocket kind of guys, they don't have a lot of time to throw, which definitely plays into the Browns' favor.
Yeah, Stafford's still really good arm, really strong, can make all the throws, but the key is not giving him time to do it. All right, from that same article, bold prediction matchup X factor. So the bold prediction: Joe Flacco has not thrown a touchdown pass since facing the Browns in Week 2 last season. Now, hasn't played a whole lot either. He will toss a pair of touchdowns at SoFi Stadium in his first start with the Browns. Matchup X factor: Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson. Broncos slowed an injured Myles Garrett in Week 12 and 1. Can Jackson do the same? Tall task for the Rams tackle. He ranks 62nd out of 70 in pass block win rate. I'd say he might not have only trouble with Myles Garrett. He might have trouble with Okoronkwo or Zadarius Smith. Jim Schwartz is going to find out which guy he has trouble with, and that guy's going to be lining up over him all game long.
Yeah, and I also love the narrative that the Broncos slowed Myles Garrett down. I saw somebody talking about that during the game last week, and they had 2 to 3 guys blocking them all the time. There are several times where Russell Wilson would take the snap and roll to his right to get away from him. I mean, they're not really slowing him down. They're actually changing their entire game plan to stay away from the guy. So I kind of hope the Rams do the same thing. I'd be fine if Myles Garrett doesn't do anything, because they're constantly trying to do everything they can to get away from him. Because like you said, Smith and Okoronkwo are going to go ahead and go out there and feast. So the Rams, it's definitely going to be a tough task for them if they try to go one-on-one. Garrett's going to have an easy game, but I think that just in general, the Rams offensive line is not going to be able to handle these guys.
All right, so Joe Flacco was asked about facing Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive tackles to ever play, in his first game back with the Browns.
Aaron's a hell of a player, but you trust the guys in front of you. There's so many good players in this league, and no matter what the team, there's somebody that is on the other side that you have to worry about. Because they're that level of player. I mean, we have our guys as well. So I remember back in high school, you look across the field and you're like, wow, look at that guy, and he's so much different than everybody. When you get to the NFL, you look out there and they're all like that, and it's just like, I think the one time I've ever looked across the ball and was actually like a little bit like taken back was my rookie year. We played in Dallas. And they had DeMarcus Ware, Canny. They had like 3 or 4 guys. And the first time we got the ball, we were on backed up on the 1 yard line. And I remember running out and looking up at those guys. And I swear to God, they were as tall as this roof is right here. And that was the one time I think in the NFL that I was actually where are these guys from? You know, they were that much different than everybody else that was on the field. So.
And Randy, again, that just kind of gives you a little, there isn't going to be, and I'm not saying he's going to go out and be great and throw for 300. There's not going to be anything that he hasn't seen before. The question is, can he get enough time and enough chemistry with the receivers to make the offense work a little bit?
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. We've heard it before how good the Browns' offensive line is. Ethan Pochik has been playing fantastic this year, but the problem has been not everybody's done a great job when it comes to protecting the interior on passing plays. Wyatt Teller has kind of been up and down in that area. Joel Bitonio is usually pretty solid, but yeah, this is going to be a huge game for them. You know, it's one of the highest paid offensive lines in the NFL. I know that you're out your tackle, or I believe DeJuan Jones should be nice and healthy, ready to go. So at least you have him, who's been filling in for Jack Conklin really well. But this is the time for that offensive line to kind of show, hey, we can hold up, we can handle these guys. The Rams aren't great on the edge, so it really is going to come down to that interior and keeping Aaron Donald from wrecking the game.
All right, so what does it look like if the Browns go into LA and get a win? In 8-4, a whole lot different than 7-5. Huge game. You know, if you're 8-4, you're starting to think, all right, you know, we might even be able to get a home playoff game. What do the Browns need to do to get a win?
I think they need to do kind of what we were just talking about. You need to give Joe Flacco as much time as possible. We know that the defense is going to keep them within the game. I'd be surprised if the Rams are able to just go out there and rout them. We know Matt Stafford has an ability to do that, but I think that the defense is going to be ready. I think Jim Schwartz is going to be ready for him. They'll keep it a manageable game. As long as you give Flacco that time to make the throws, that'll allow them to stick with the run and not have to abandon it because they fall behind. And if he's able to get a few passes downfield, that could even help open up the run game. So I think it's going to come down to their offensive line giving him time and creating holes for the runs when they need to run.
Yeah, and again, I expect you would see more run, more play action, like you're used to seeing in the Kevin Stefanski offense under Baker Mayfield, under Jacoby Brissett.
Exactly, and you know, again, that's also going to come back to the offensive line because we've seen time again when the team doesn't bite on the play fake, and all of a sudden the quarterback is getting drilled as soon as he turns around to try to survey the downfield. But I do think that all of that is going to play hand in hand. I think getting the threat of the pass back off the safeties, you start getting the run going a little bit better, and then when you do use that play action and get even the slightest bite from the safeties, from the corners, whoever, then I think that that's going to really open up the offense. So I do hope that we see a lot of that. And again, that all, like I said, comes back down to the offensive line being able to do their job.
Randy Gurzi, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Randy.
I appreciate it.
Randy Gurzi, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff with Dog Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.